You are listening to the Mary Jane Society podcast, where you will meet entrepreneurs, cultivators, scientists, doctors, and inventors in the cannabis industry.
I'm your host, Pam Schmiel. As the beverage industry heats up, convenience store operators are debating about embracing this fast-emerging category despite its legal gray area. Today, our guest is Melissa VonderHaar. She's a nationally recognized expert in the convenience store channel. She regularly writes for the sector, covering stories specifically on cannabis, tobacco, vapor, and alcohol categories. And she speaks on this subject at numerous industry events. She's also head of industry relations for iSEE Solutions. Melissa shares important insights on why convenience stores will massively benefit from selling THC drinks, and it may be the tipping point for mass distribution and acceptance for this category. Let's welcome Melissa VonderHaar to the show.
Fundamentally, if you have the goal of making this mainstream and making it accessible, it can't be limited to the dispensary channel. It just can't.
I see we already have the guardrails set up with the tobacco
Right.
and alcohol.
Right.
Or
Well,
beer.
and that's the point I'll make for convenience is they don't sell just one restricted product. It's not just liquor. They sell all of them. They sell tobacco, alcohol, including wine and spirits where they're allowed to. Lottery is age restricted. And there are even stores that still sell adult magazines. They sell all of them. And tobacco nicotine is their number one seller. They cannot afford to not age gate. They just can't. It is too important. And their third biggest category is beer, which not every store is allowed to sell. And still nationally, beer is the third largest category for in-store. Fuel is still the biggest for everything, but they cannot afford to be lax about age verification. And the statistics will show that. I mean, the convenience stores check more IDs on a daily basis than TSA.
That's a good data.
Yeah, that's a NACS stat, and it's one of their favorites. And I get it. They're a very easy kind of picking ground because there are 152,000 C-stores in the United States. It is the largest retail chain. It is huge, and 90,000 of them are single store operators. So it's,
that's interesting too. Yeah.
It is a large single stores really make up the majority of this industry. Which is both good and bad. It's whenever you're talking about that volume, you're gonna have some people that are bad actors. That's gonna happen. But by far and away, that is not the case. And in fact, those single store operators are often the ones that are really willing to take chances on a new category, right? Because they are not dealing, 7-Eleven, Casey's, they have to deal with their GR team saying this is federally illegal. And I know it's kind of in this gray area, but no, we can't touch it because if the FDA chooses to come down on someone, they're going to pick a big guy.
That's right.
I think that is starting to change as we see Total Wine come into the THC beverage space. That's a pretty big prominent retailer. As you see DoorDash say we are going to have a THC category where it's legal on a state basis, and you can order THC beverages. Alas, New York is behind on that as well, so you and I can't get them, but New Jersey, go ahead. These are some pretty big players that are publicly advertising that they are in this space. So I think we'll start to see some changes. There's some stuff I know about that I am unfortunately not yet allowed to talk to. It's on NACS's agenda.
So that hasn't happened yet.
So NACS's position largely has been if we will only allow legal products at the show because we do not want the federal government or the state authorities raiding the show. And they know that, hey, there are thousands and thousands of people here attending this. It's the same. If the federal government wanted to make a show,
Yeah,
NASA target. Um,
it's not
but
worth it.
yeah, but that said, because they dealt with this with CBD back in the wake of the Farm Bill. And for a couple of years when CBD was the big hot thing before kind of people understood what different cannabinoids do and don't do, and that CBD was not going to get anyone high, and therefore the consumers of a convenience store are probably not terribly interested in a solely wellness product at a Circle K or a 7-Eleven. But they did have a CBD area of the show where people could have their booths. They were not allowed to sample for the kind of regulatory. You can have empty packaging so that if the feds were to come in, they would see that you're not selling or sampling anything with cannabis. You are just showcasing your brand and talking to retailers about it. It's me so much. I started in the convenience channel kind of right as e-cigarettes and vape were becoming a thing. And it is so, so, so reminiscent of those early days where everybody isn't quite sure what these products are and aren't. Are they going to take off? Oh, wait, there's tons of consumer interest. This all makes a lot of sense. But oh, there's like 8,000 people, like different brands and companies. So who's going to survive? What are the regulatory structure going to look like? But you see it, and I see it and I go, I don't know what this is going to look like in 5 years from a like regulatory perspective, but I know it's here and it's going to be big, and it's just kind of a matter of how those logistics shake out. So it's better to be proactive and embrace it, which they were slow to make any kind of statement on vapor and e-cigarettes. So, I mean, they allowed the products because those were still technically legal at the time. But it's so reminiscent of that, and it's going to be here. And, the convenience industry, again, reliant hugely on fuel and tobacco. And neither one are great margin drivers for the stores, whereas THC beverage, especially as it currently is, where there's like no additional taxes, it's a great margin driver for the stores.
So where does it stand now as far, those are such great points. Maybe I'll write an article, the case for cannabis in the convenience store.
Yes.
Right? Maybe that's something.
That's literally what kind of my position was for CanadaCon. I didn't get through all of it, but kind of it is hugely beneficial for the convenience retailers. It's also hugely beneficial for the THC beverage companies. Kind of
course, yeah, adoption.
I fully believe that I'm not saying that it doesn't belong in liquor and grocery. I'm not. I'm saying if you want to get trial, you need to be in convenience as singles. It is a trial-rich market. Anyone that's done a beverage launch will tell you that. It's affordable indulgence. People are going there to fuel up anyway.
And grab a drink.
70% of the people that go into the store at least walk by the cold vault. I think 60% buy a beverage. And I think like 75% of people that buy a beverage end up buying something that they didn't plan on. It's not as much of a list occasion the way it would be in a grocery store or a liquor store. Also, for liquor, you have this huge percentage of the population, especially the younger population, that doesn't drink alcohol. So they're not going into liquor stores. I don't think this category is quite yet at the place where they have.
Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah.
Have enough consumer awareness that they go, oh, if I want THC beverages, I should go to Total Wine. It's the people don't know these drinks exist. There's not much yet brand loyalty. So if you want to get people to try it, the average convenience store, if they have fuel, they service 1,100 people a day. Like there is simply not another retail outlet that services this many people. And you look at the rural areas, there's Casey's is not just the convenience store. They are also like the number 3 pizza operator in the United States. They sell a ton of pizza because they operate in rural markets where there probably isn't a Pizza Hut or a Domino's nearby, but there is a Casey's. And they also serve as the grocery store. Convenience stores operate in a lot of food deserts. So there are people that are truly, it's kind of astounding how many people are out there that are, 3 or 4 times a week convenience store shoppers.
Right,
So it's
right.
by getting this there, getting it by the beer with singles and some form of promotion that incentivizes people to try, it garners awareness. And then maybe, maybe they'll still go to the convenience store to pick up their 4-pack, or they'll go to Total Wine, or they'll go to the grocery store, or they'll order directly. But it's to get new people into the category, this is where, it should be done, especially, one of the things that was brought up at CanadaCon was sampling and kind of they've had sampling programs that go great, but also for people who haven't consumed cannabis or not consumed it in this format, they often don't want to try it in public because they don't know how they're going to react. And so that single in the convenience store is your sampling opportunity because they can take it home, drink it, see the effect, and then decide if they want more or if they want to, oh, this is a good fit, or, oh, hey, this didn't, make me go crazy, like kind of take
Yeah,
the stigma away.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I think it's the biggest hurdle for this.
Yeah, that's really great points. So what is the state of uh drinks, hemp-derived drinks in convenience stores? I mean, because as you know, we really don't, we're not living that life, so I don't
Right,
know
right.
what's going on out there.
So, I mean,
Are
no
there,
surprise, data is pretty much impossible to come by. Especially specific to drinks. It's not something Nielsen is tracking. It's not the NACS. NACS has a kind of state of the industry numbers report, but they only track legal categories. So it is not categorized in there yet. Now it might be showing out. I'm going to be that event will happen in April. I'll be very curious to see if it's sneaking into like the non-alc part.
mhm.
Because a lot of it is just based on how retailers categorize it and all that. Um, but so what I'll say is that there are more and more carrying it. But what I would say is it's primarily in smaller retailers right now.
Okay, okay.
So,
Yeah, because I haven't investigated it
yeah,
like,
it's it's hard because then there's also people that are in it but don't want to advertise it. They're in
right,
it just yet. So it's very much, there's a lot. What I will say is there are a lot of people that are watching it and kind of trying to determine the right time to jump in. There's also retailers in states like California or Colorado or New York that would like to be in it, but because of state regs, they can't. And the other thing I'll say is, and this was a learning of mine at CanadaCon, is there are so many more beer wholesalers that are really, really investing in this space. And they are helping kind of service those independent C-store operators. So, I unfortunately don't have, I only have anecdotal.
yeah, I'm just curious, like, but I guess I could see,
But
logically, like you're saying, there's a lot of one store operators. So for a brand, you'd have to be knocking on those doors. You know what I mean? It's harder than like, so
so yeah, and that's what's hard, right? It's not,
it's not, yeah, it's
it's
not
not
easy.
an inch deep, or yeah, sorry, mile deep and an inch wide. It's for convenience, you really have to be a mile wide and an inch deep, which is really hard. But that's where those wholesaler distributors come in, because they are kind of playing that role. And I know that there's some other sales organizations that are out there to kind of help serve. So they partner with the brands to kind of say, hey, we have connections to all of these independent C stores. So rather than you and your team of 20 people trying to call on each one of them, we will do it as part of our, we represent 20 beer brands and THC
Right.
So it's
Okay. Yeah, so they already have it.
there are
They're
models out there to deal with it, and that's usually where the wholesaler distributor comes in. So seeing that they're involved, like that makes a huge difference. And what I can say, so this again is anecdotal, but the retailer I referenced in Minnesota that is invested kind of on, both on he's invested in the co-packing and production side, but he also brought THC beverage into his stores. And, in Minneapolis, you cannot sell menthol cigarettes or flavored tobacco vapor of any kind. So his tobacco category was just shot. Menthol cigarettes are 40% of the category. And in Minneapolis, it's not that they banned those products, it's that you have to be an adults only location. So liquor stores can sell them, convenience stores cannot. In the meantime, he has brought in THC beverage and hemp gummies, and he said that category now sells more than tobacco.
which makes sense, right? So yeah, okay.
So,
He's proving
so
what
yes,
everybody else probably knows is going to happen, but they just aren't getting in yet.
right, precisely.
But I guess people are like him are doing things like that, bringing it in. But well, this was another big question I wanted to know is what is the typical distribution channel? Is it the same as the liquor store, like you said, like working off the distributors? It's the same thing because
Well,
that
so, and that's so it's for beverage, it's 3-tier primarily. Now there are retailers that are doing direct. So there are, and that's similar within liquor. There are, when it comes to products like this, there are some retailers that might say, you know what, I'm going to contact this brand and have them ship it to me direct. And that happens with vapor as well. So especially on the independent side, there are guys that are willing to do that, especially if they're being proactive. I think largely it's going to go to wholesaler distributor model would be my instinct. And that's similar with edibles. It's just a matter of there's different there's basically the beer wholesalers and then kind of the traditional distributors that do candy, snacks, all of that stuff. But
that's
it's
separate. Yeah.
largely, yes. Yeah, those are generally separate. Though I guess I should ask, I'll have to ask one of the gummy companies that I'm talking to if they go through the beer wholesaler, because it is an adult use product versus the traditional ones.
Yeah.
They do tobacco, so they do handle adult age restricted products. It's just I honestly don't know the answer to if
Yeah.
they're
Oh, for gummies.
yeah, for gummies.
Because
So
that's going to be another popular
oh,
product. Are you
absolutely.
kidding me? I mean, that's like
Oh,
gum, and gum, and just yeah.
well,
So I didn't even think of that one yet because it's really
right,
worth focusing on the beverages. But
right. Well, it's where, it's I see the beverages as kind of more akin to beer, right? Where beer wine, where you're going to drink a couple. So it's not a one and done. And I think there's some learnings that have to happen because I do know there was a lot of talk about it's the 10 milligrams beverages are what's selling at liquor, but I don't think that's right to move only to higher dose.
yeah, I think the 5, so
I think
people can have a couple.
even at 2, if it's gonna be a night where you wanna, this is gonna be my
Yeah,
alcohol replacement and I'm out with friends and they're probably gonna have 4 or 5 cocktails, like I can't have 4 or 5 milligram. But the 2s, I can do that and kind of let it build.
yeah.
These are more hey, 1 and let me feel the effect and write it out. So it'll be interesting to see where it all goes. But I think with tobacco kind of shrinking, there is an opportunity for back bar space for edibles. And I think that's an appropriate play. And I think there are retailers that are they are shrinking their back bar space because it's just not selling. So
God, these
for
are. It's just. Oh my God, they're probably going. Please let me get in.
yeah,
And not only that, but if once it goes to and like once the domino effect goes, I mean, that is just going to fast forward the
Oh,
federal legalization. That's
I,
almost, you know what? That's almost what we need. Because once that
yes.
train is out, forget
Oh,
it. Like, what is all the points that you mentioned? It's just going to
oh,
be,
no. One of the points I make a lot is that once it's federally legal, major CPG companies, they have been watching this. They are going to get in, whether it's buying an existing
oh,
or developing their own brand, they are going to get in and they are going to want to deal with the distribution models and the retailers that they work with for everything else. So, it's a
yeah,
fully understand and appreciate everything the dispensary channel has done. I think there is going to be a space for them, but to try to dig in your heels and say only us, I don't think that's going to be a reality once there are major CPG players involved. I just don't, and they have a lot of money. Like they're
and
not
that's what it takes. And that's what it takes.
absolutely. And and to me, if the end goal is to normalize cannabis, then you got to normalize it. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah, well, I know one of the other big concerns besides that, right, maybe dispensaries will have to kind of reinvent themselves in a way and
right.
reposition themselves for whatever, however that's going to change. But hey, um, I feel sorry for them because of all the money they put into it. It's just
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's
it's just going to be it's a
no,
bloodbath.
and like they've dealt with the tax crap and the banking crap. Like,
Low
it's
margins, everybody's just literally, suicidal. It's terrible. But,
right,
one of the other big problems that the industry has is, I think most people agree that the whole hemp beverage movement sector is great for the industry for everything we were just saying, but for moving the industry forward. But then there are so many bad actors out there. There's too many people. You give somebody an inch, they're going to
right.
take 10
No,
miles.
it's the same with convenience. It's
Y-
exactly what I was saying with it's when you have 1,000 brands out there, the statistics are not in your favor that everybody's going to be above board.
Yeah. And so, that's a big concern also because when you start getting, bad ingredients or, moldy whatever, or,
Right.
products,
You know,
THC distillate manufactured in China, all this kind of stuff.
raising dosing it's off. Yeah.
So that's ruining the reputation of the industry and undermining everything. But how would convenience stores, if it really did start opening up, what's the safety net like in lab testing? And also because they are also single operated, do you think there's a safety net like to make sure like, okay, if this product is coming into my store, I'm going to require lab testing?
Yeah, I mean, so they have learned a lot from the
Fuel.
vapor, yeah, yeah, from the vapor days and also from CBD, right? So they tend to know the questions to ask. They will ask to see a COA. They will ask, they will certainly ask kind of what is the policy if the regs change and suddenly I can't sell these. What is the policy if we can tell this has been damaged? They will ask about the lab testing. So and frankly, that's part of the reason why I suspect the industry will be advocating for some form of regulation so that you have so that they don't have to ask those questions. So
Maybe
that,
that will push it. Maybe that will,
right,
right. Maybe this again will push that forward. The
right,
government will say, oh my God, we really got to deal with this. Now it's inconvenience. Now
right.
it's like,
It's here, it's not going away, so let's regulate it and make it safe. Because right now there's no, on a federal level, there's no age restriction for this. And it's great that, it seems like the industry is self-regulating. I watched this happen with vape, but like also with vape, I was like, the vapor crisis with teens wasn't because people were selling them to kids. It's because you had an unregulated market without
yes.
paper limitations, without federal oversight, And anything that's sold in a store, you don't need to, like, I never went to a liquor store as a minor and bought for myself. I always knew a friend who was 21 who could do it. Why would I risk that? Like, that's where most of this is happening.
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah.
even if the industry is self-regulating, you really need federal, oversight. And it doesn't have to be huge, but putting hey, these are the requirements on lab testing. These are the requirements on best manufacturing practices. This is the requirements on age gating and where you can and can't merchandise it. The industry largely has taken a stance of, we want to sell in a regulated space. Give us the guardrails and we will follow it.
Mm.
I also, in the meantime, what I think is going to happen is they're going to rely on those distributor partners. So they're going to say, okay, if the
Yeah.
Anheuser-Busch wholesaler that I trust to deliver my beer and is offering me craft products that they have vetted, but they're also offering THC beverages, that, one of my biggest pieces of advice for brands looking to get into convenience is find the wholesaler distributors that are servicing that channel and get in with them, because that is going to add a layer of legitimacy. Are there going to be the independent players that say, no, I'm going to order this cheap direct? Yeah, that's going to happen. However, the majority of the industry is going to want to do this responsibly, because they
Yes.
really got burned with the vape stuff. They were kind of the poster child, even though their age verification numbers are great.
Why
It was
wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you go through somebody who, at least you have a
not
vetting process that's,
testing.
like you're too busy running your store. You have to, right? Okay. All
Right.
right.
But they will, by and large, because of their experience with vape, with CBD, they know the questions to ask.
But like what was your summary or takeaway from CannaCon?
5% of products purchased at convenience are consumed immediately, and 83% are consumed within an hour. So when I say trial rich environment, that's what I'm talking about. It's a really quick shop. So it's 3 to 5 minutes total that people spend in a store. But 65% of them make an unplanned purchase. They kind of really look for craving or desire. It's affordable indulgence is kind of where they view that channel. So a candy bar, a donut, a cup of coffee, it's that's why it's great for trial. And I kind of talked with you some about the challenges. It's 150 plus thousand plus stores, 90,000 of them are independent. The larger chains are still pretty cautious, but again, I think that's changing. So it's like you said, it's really hard for a brand on their own to service those 90,000 independent C stores. So it's a challenge. I get it. I understand why they look at it and go, no, I want to go to the liquor channel where there's like 4 players,
Yeah.
and I get into all their stores if I get into one. But why this channel? It's, as I said, it's, you don't get more people. Like, it's just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
43% of Americans live within 1 mile of a convenience store, and in rural areas, 86% of people live within 10 minutes of a convenience store. They are just everywhere. Um, you know, 53% of people buy a cold beverage, 70% walk by the cold vault. Um, you know, I do a lot of work with Bump Williams, who is a really tenured beverage consultant. He's worked with every major beer player, and his point is, he always tells brands, whether it's soda, whether it's beer, whether it's wine, whether it's THC beverage, if you want to generate trial and drive brand awareness, get your product into hands of millions of potential customers, you got to go through convenience first.
Well, I mean, that is so valuable for these new startups and all these
Right.
beverages. Well, like
Right.
what were some of the challenges, some of the people you were meeting when you were networking at the event, or some other things? Like what were they all talking about? I mean,
I
probably the
mean,
same things we just talked about.
I really, really pleasant. I thought I was going to have a battle selling the brands on convenience. I know that they've invested a lot in liquor. So I really thought I was going to get, but actually so many of them came up to me, and that's part of why I'm so busy is that I have follow-up calls with all of them. Uh,
Oh, right.
so they are interested. They want to sell in convenience. They understand the value of it. It's just that challenge of how. Like, is
Right, right.
when, honestly, one of the best ways is to have a booth at the NAC show, because that's retailers from all over the world coming and sampling. It is that is how my company got started. It is our biggest expense of the year. It is the best way, and there are so many ways to engage and learn about the channel at that event.
Oh,
But
yeah, the trade shows are great. I
yeah,
mean, with that, yeah.
and the problem is right now they're locked out. So that sucks. Like, that is a huge hurdle. It's also, as you said, there's so many brands out there. So, like, and there's wholesalers at this point that are already kind of at their max of what they're willing to carry. As one of the wholesalers that spoke there said, he's like, right now this represents about 1% of my sales. It's not a huge, but it's growing. And he's like, this is why we're investing in it, but he already has, say, 20 SKUs. So, like, is he really taking on more? And it's hard because there is no, there's recognizable brands for people like you and me that are in this industry, but from a consumer perspective, there's no brand loyalty, there's no brand leader. And so it's for a THC beverage company to get wholesaler placement, that's hard too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just navigating the right ways to get involved when frankly, it's really difficult right now. Uh,
Yeah.
so my observation from CanadaCon was that there's huge interest. We just need a pathway.
If I was a brand, I would almost pick one state or two states,
Right,
launch your sales team, just find that one person who's going to get in their car and drive around the whole state and
right.
hit those convenience
And
stores.
as I said too, I
Just get that momentum going.
and I advise, so NACS is the big nationwide trade association. However, every state or region has a regional convenience trade association. In New York, it's NIACS, New York Association of Convenience Stores. New England has NEXIMA. So every state has one, and they might, because they are not a national player, especially in a state with
Mm.
permissive or no guidelines, they also have trade shows. They're smaller, but it's local. And I think there will be ones that will be more open to this or might not have a policy. So you ask the question, of how to get involved. And I'm trying to get NACS to give me some kind of best practices for ways that for brands that they can, because, they can purchase a ticket and go walk the show.
Right.
They
And
can,
you meet a lot and you learn so much.
right.
I've worked trade shows, believe me. I mean, they are just you're so exhausted.
Oh,
It's
so exhausting, but it's also wonderful. And, there are opportunities. NACS is a political organization, so they have a PAC. And I would talk with NACS about some of their other events to see if you can attend so that you're learning about the industry, you're meeting people, and showing, frankly, that you're investing in this space. And
yeah.
that's just kind of best practice for anybody getting into convenience.
Yeah, those are great tips just to start dipping your toe into the that
Yeah.
pool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then it teaches you how to talk to the retailers too, and shows that you understand the unique challenges of their space. Because, I think a lot of these brands are selling multi packs in liquor, which you can sell in convenience. But if you want to make the money, if you want to get the trial, you got to do singles.
And
Like,
some dispensaries only sell singles and
yeah,
some sell
most-
packs. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I know it's a really small piece in dispensaries. I think they're just not really set up for
Yeah.
beverage.
Yeah. Yeah. But I
I would
think
love
it's increasing, but you're right that it's
that.
not even it's just that's one category.
Not what they're selling. They're, like,
Yeah. Right. It's not they're selling. Wow, that's so amazing. I love this. I'm really excited about it because I feel like God, there's hope that it's gonna open up a dam
really,
because
I,
we
yeah,
all just have had the pressure,
right.
even working in this industry,
Oh,
there's
yeah,
no
no,
money flowing. I mean, it's just to have somebody.
benefits are hard. Yeah, like every part of it is hard. And I'll say, like, the back-to-back, so I did CanadaCon, and then I was at NACS's Leadership Forum and talked with a lot of people about, and there is a lot more openness and excitement on both sides than what I have ever seen before. And I really think, beverage is such an approachable format, and it's what people are used to when it comes to social lubrication, to, social
occasions, different occasions. That's what I hear brands talking about, the beverages, the occasions.
But also just from a consumer perspective, it's people are used to drinking something to feel relaxation or to unwind or to spend, a happy hour or whatever. And a world where this is offered as an alternative, like, I think it has the power to open this up in a way we have not seen. And I just really, really hope the federal government doesn't screw it up.
Well, I feel like convenience is the key, honestly, to open up the dam. I really do. Push they need. Come on, guys.